Good morning, LBC Radio. My name is Corey Rosen, and you're listening to the Story Podcast. Today, I have on a super awesome guest, Miss Ariella Hoover.
Yes, good to be here.
Ariella Hoover is a Lancaster County native and a graduate of the Lancaster Bible College's Vocal Performance Program. She loves working administratively in the arts, getting to combine many of her skills and passions into one job. As the operations manager of arts and culture for the Trust Performing Arts Center and Lancaster Bible College, she loves getting to be in the process from start to finish, from contract to concert. In her free time, you'll find her traveling, styling outfits, building relationships, spending time with her nieces and nephews, working on music, and pretending that the Olympics are still in reach.
Yes, yes.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you doing, Corey?
I'm doing great. So I know just from us being kind of colleagues and around each other a lot from my time at Lancaster Bible
hmm
College, you grew up doing music and sports.
Yes.
And so, what was it when you were young that really got you invested in the music?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I mean, I had a family that was very encouraging of music, but I would say probably one of the most influential sources in my life for music was actually a great aunt, however you like to say that. My maternal grandmother's sister really loved opera, actually, and so she owned this large 50-acre farm down in Maryland, and we'd go visit. And I kid you not, she had to have had thousands of CDs. And a lot of the CDs were, classical and opera. And I would just sit there and go through them and play these CDs. And, it really helped solidify to my young brain that I want to be an opera singer one day, or like I want to be in music. I want to do this thing. So yeah, I liked it at home, and then I would go there and I would just dive in essentially.
So opera, that's a tangent from the main path, right?
Yeah, well, that was when I was 4 and I sing in the bathroom because it had the best acoustics, obviously,
Of course.
pretending that you're an opera singer. And so it got yeah, that was a dream for a really long time. And I always liked, the musical theater realm and jazz as well. So I kind of liked it all, but I always thought, I'd rather train for opera because you can go from the Met to Broadway. You can't really go from Broadway to the Met. So I
Mm.
always wanted in my head to train for the highest level because then you can do it all, so to speak.
So, what were your favorite operas?
Oh, there's so many. I'm a big fan of Puccini and a lot of his operas. I like Mozart's The Marriage of Figaro, of course, but I would say, yeah, I tend to gravitate. Now, his operas, they need very big voices, so I don't sing Puccini as well as some would. But, Mozart and Puccini, and there's so many. There's so many.
So, how did you, as a small town Lancaster, get to be able to do opera around here?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I would say the first opera I was in was with Opera Lancaster. They were doing a production of La Boheme when I was a senior in high school, and I had always, watched them. We also got to go to the Met with my class from tiny little, Veritas Academy.
Mm.
We took a field trip up to see Tosca, I believe it was, at the Metropolitan Opera House, which was also awesome. But yeah, as a senior, I'd been following Opera Lancaster a little bit, and they're no longer really, they don't even hardly exist anymore. But I was like, I want to be in an opera and make sure that this is something that like I really could see myself doing one day, So that was a really neat experience. But prior to that, I was just doing some concerts and stuff, and I was taking voice lessons, and so yeah, there's not, it's not New York, so and opera in general is not, as widespread maybe as some genres, but yeah, but it was neat. I got to be part of that experience, and I was like, this is really cool. I'd like to keep studying it. So
So, at what point did you get into? Well, I guess opera is also musical theater in a sense.
yeah, in a sense, sure.
So you decided to come to Lancaster Bible College. Why?
Yeah, I mean, I love the Lord. I thought it'd be really cool to study more Bible as well. And then I liked the fact I liked the program that they had here. Even though I really liked music and opera, I didn't have like a super strong base necessarily in music theory, and things like that. And I thought that this is a place that I could learn from that and not be, overly intimidated by. And I think I could pick up a lot here at Lancaster Bible College. So I decided to come here for vocal performance. And I had done a lot of musical theater in high school and, and some community theater and stuff as well. But again, keeping with that whole, let me train as the highest I can with my instrument and then go from there. That's why I chose vocal performance instead of musical theater. And then I mixed in the electives as well, like the dance and things like that, just so that I could be as well rounded as possible.
So tell me about your time here at LBC. What were some of the advantages you took advantage of, or some things that you might have wished you took more advantage of?
Yeah, that's a good question too. So I enjoyed I was able to be in a bunch of opera workshops while I was here. I also did more operas with Opera Lancaster, which was really neat. And that was neat that they had like a really good relationship with that. And then my teacher for the second half of my time here at LBC as a student was Heidi Shannon, and she had a lot of connections in that world as well in this area. So she would come up with opportunities as well. Like I remember one time, I think I was a senior by this point, maybe a junior, and she goes, "Hey, Opera Lancaster is doing something for that Extra Give." It was like when the Extra Give was just starting in Lancaster, the big, nonprofit giving day. She said they want someone to sing a few songs, and I know it's next week, but I think you can learn them that quickly. So that was just neat things like that. And then I got to do Opera Lancaster. I know it sounds like we mostly did things with Opera Lancaster, but that's where we're at is Lancaster. But they did a really neat community like school outreach thing while I was a senior as well, of the Three Little Pigs. So it was basically like a stripped down, like the story of the Three Little Pigs, but using opera arias. It was really cute. So I got to do that, and we got to tour that to local, elementary schools and middle schools and things. So those are definitely some highlights, I would say, of my time here at Lancaster Bible College, but also just learning more about the voice, and yeah, I just really like to work and I like to study hard and I like to know the intricacies of things. So something like a vocal performance degree is neat because you're really stripping down like all like what is your voice doing at this moment? How would you fix that? How do you do things? How do you sing healthy? And more about, the anatomy of the voice. And yeah, it was just really neat to just like dig in, get to know more about that and languages.
What's one of the more shocking things that you learned about the voice that you would have never thought to even think about?
Ooh, yeah. Um, I think if you can really strip away like the tension and all of that and the voice that it's almost limitless, which is really interesting. You can do so much with it. And the more you know about it, I think the more you can do with it too. Because if you know how to sing tension free, for example, and healthily, like you really can intentionally modify for different genres and different styles of singing and sing that way probably for life and not have much damage on it. So just learning what it's capable of, especially when you're singing with good technique, was so fascinating.
How long do you think it took you to get a handle on your own voice?
Oh, I think I'm still trying to get a handle on my own voice, to be honest. But I do remember, so I had a different teacher my freshman and sophomore year, and she was really great. And she taught me so much. But she was certainly more on like the musical theater side of things too. Like she had studied opera as well, but that like musical theater was probably a little bit more of her genre. So when I got with Heidi Shannon, she was really more of like the like let's really figure this out. And so I also joined with her late, and I ended up doing like a senior recital in February of my senior year, even though I pushed for May, as many seniors might. Like, give me all the time I can. But I would say I was really just hitting my stride probably the second semester of my senior year, so my last semester of college. And I remember having my recital in February, and by May, my teacher and I remarked this would have been a completely different recital because I had just grown so much in those like final 3 months. And so there's a part of me that wishes I had gone from a master's, or kept going right from there. Cause I think it could have been a different experience altogether, had I done a recital then or had I kept studying from then, because I was just hitting my stride, I would say, when I graduated. So yeah, so here and there I really am trying to still take lessons and learn more about it, but I would say I haven't arrived yet. I used to give myself time. I was like, oh, 36 is when you peak in classical music as a female. I'm fine. I got time. But now, I've turned to that decade calendar and I'm like, oh shoot, it's running out. No. My peak is coming if but
So I really admire the fact that you were always like, "Oh, shoot for the stars and then get what you can."
mhm.
Um, what brought that philosophy onto you, do you think?
Oh, yeah. You know, I'm sure some of it is just my personality and how the Lord designed me, but I think some of it too is, and I'm not saying you can't have this if you grew up in a small family, but I grew up with like a lot of siblings. I grew up in a big family. And I think that there's something about growing up in a big family where there's like just enough competition and enough observance and enough work to do that a lot of people I know who grew up with lots of siblings just have a pretty hard work ethic. And I don't know if that's some of it. I think just watching my older siblings work hard at things, and then wanting to be like them, or to be honest, sometimes, you want to be
You
better
gotta
than them because
outshine
there's that
your siblings,
competition,
yeah.
right? So I think there was just this, I think it was modeled for me.
Mm.
This you go hard and you do your very best at whatever the Lord has put in your life or whatever you're doing, you do your very best at it. And so it was modeled, I'd say. And so it just kind of was like, well, whatever I do, I want to be the best I can, like the best version that Ariella can be at whatever I'm doing.
So that's a great outlook because I know the inverse can often happen with giant families like this. Well, I'm a
Right.
nobody in this
Right.
in this vast wealth of everybody's. I'm a nobody.
That's a good point too. Yeah, it could go either way, I suppose. So I'll call it the grace of God then. That it went the let's just work hard way. So
And I know one at least one of your other siblings went into music as well, or so,
Um,
or
not like as a major necessarily, but she did a lot of music. So I have an identical twin sister who sings really well also and plays some keys. Though she'd never call herself a pianist, but she just has that ear, you know.
mhm.
But then I also have another sister who studied violin and piano. So yeah, I mean, all of us had to take piano growing up, at
Okay.
least, at the very least. Now I would not call myself a pianist, but it was my mom would always say, you got to take piano first, and then if you want to do something else, that's fine. But piano's your base, you know.
Mm.
So we all appreciated a lot and studied it, but I guess I'm the only one who probably really, went for that degree and am still working in music. But yeah, my twin sister still, sings at church sometimes and things like that. So
She's the one of the DJs over at
she
WJCL.
is, yes. She
So,
gets to be around it a lot. So
yeah. So you mentioned that you had this final push of your last semester, and you maybe sometimes regret that you didn't have your recital then.
Mhm.
Is there anything you did after that to like fully encapsulate on your achievement?
Not like I wish sometimes. I kind of wish I had kept going because I was, just starting to hit that stride, and there's something really like euphoric about that, you know? You're like,
Hmm.
this is awesome. Wow, how far could I keep going, you know? And I kind of took a little break. I started working a lot, and then there got to be this point where like I still love music and I would love to be I doing it even more than I am doing it right now. But I also got to this point where I was like, I think the Lord might have some other things in mind for me when it
Mm.
comes to that. I looked at the realm as well, and I said, I don't know if I want to be doing auditions all the time and not know when my next gig is. And because that's really where the work is, right? Like the
Right.
fun part is actually doing the gig you booked. The work is the auditions and the preparing for the auditions, and all that. Um, so yeah, I kind of went a different direction. I worked hard. I said I'm gonna take a little bit of time off from like pushing it. I kind of wish I had kept that momentum going, but took a time off, paid my debts off, my college debts off, and then looked around and I was like, well, shoot, I'm not at this probably at the same competitive level as, to be honest, as those who've kept, with that momentum going forward. Like they would tend to be booked probably instead of
Hmm.
me, in this case. But so there's some things I would maybe do differently, but I also believe that like the Lord is sovereign and He has me here for a reason. And I definitely still use my degree and just the knowledge I was able to gain through my music degree in what I do on a day to day. So that's exciting. I do feel like I'm bridging not only that area, but also some of the admin gifts the Lord gave me into what I do today. So,
So what did you do instead of pursuing that?
yeah, for a time, I actually lived in Italy, which is, let's be real, basically the birthplace of opera. So that was really special. I did get to catch a few while I was over there. I lived over there for a time and worked for a study abroad program. And then I also worked for a book publishing company that specializes in classical Christian education, called Veritas Press on the phones. And I did help, set a few concerts and organize some music for some of their graduation ceremonies and things like that. So I got to use it a little bit there. But yeah, I did that off and on for about between the two of them, Italy and Veritas Press. That took about 4 years of my life, and then I came back here.
So what was it like over in Italy? What were some of the things that shocked you as a first time Italy goer?
It is just a beautiful country. It really is. And, I'm going to butcher this, so don't quote me on it, but there's something like 80 or 90% of the world's like archaeology and artifacts and things like that are in Italy just because of like the culture that they had. Maybe 70%. Look it up. Look it up. It's really cool. It was, I remember that. I mean, I never forgot that. It's been, over 10 years since I was first there and 7 years since I was living there for a longer period of time. But they just have so much history and just culture. And so it's just beautiful because I think they're Italian people. They know that they're really proud of their heritage and all that they have to offer to the world. So just between that and just the landscapes and the coffee and the food and the fashion, which I also love, and just the music. Oh my word, it's a very rich place. I always encourage people to don't hesitate. Definitely go visit. Because I think it just really enhances your life in so many ways.
I'm sure your Italian got way better.
It did, yes. But as my mom always says, if you don't use it, you lose it.
Yeah, that's
so
right.
I do try to keep up with it a little bit now. But I've switched to French for the past 3 months. So, which French I find difficult because there's so many letters that they drop. I'm still learning what, when, and all that. But it's been a fun journey. So
we'll have to get back to that one.
Yeah.
But so why did you come back to America?
Well, that's a good question. I still dream of moving back to Italy, more full time, but my family's here and that was special to me. The time that I had signed up for the gig I was doing, the time was up. So I thought of, going back. But I would have had to figure out a different way to do that, like with a different job so I said, let me come back to America. Let me kind of take stock of where we're at. Do I want to, go to grad school for music? Do I want to go back and live in Italy, or what do I want to do? But but I went back to Veritas Press. I'd worked there a little bit in the summers as a student towards the end of my year, and also love what they do. So I was excited to just be a part of that, at least for a time, until I figured out what was next. So
what do they do?
Yeah, so they're a book publishing company that essentially writes books for like the neoclassical or what's called classical education. There's kind of been a surge of that, I would say, in the last 25 years. So a lot of homeschool curriculum for students and parents who wanted to, take that route. So classical, right? They're studying ancient Greece and Rome, in Rome, and Latin and logic and the language of Greek, and the great literature, great Western literature and books, and basically coming at studying from that perspective. So they have this thing called the trivium, right? So grammar stage, logic stage, and rhetoric stage. And I always thought it was a neat way because what it does, it's the philosophy of that education is that as students are growing, they're learning what they're not the stage they're naturally in, right? So we all know young kids are sponges, basically.
Yes.
So in the grammar stage, they would focus on facts, the who, what, where, when facts, So it'd be like a lot of memorization, a lot of just straight facts because kids just, they pick it up. Yeah. And then that was like the K to 6 range, 6th grade range. And then your 7th through 9th grade range is when a lot of us, we're starting to get a little more argumentative with the parents and things. So they said, listen, now you have the facts. Now we're going to start teaching you how to reason with the facts that you've already learned. And so, yeah. And if you're going to argue anyway, let's teach you to do it well, at least, you know? Right. And then, they get into the rhetoric stage, and it was now that you have the facts and you know how to reason them, we're going to teach you how to present yourself, present your facts, how to read, like how to speak, how to write, and how to present your views in a good manner, and so that's what the 10th through 12th grade years would focus on. And so that's kind of, there's so much that could be said about that. That might have to be another whole podcast, but yeah. So I just really like that philosophy of education as well. And so I was really excited. I also went through that myself in high school. I studied that way. So I was like happy to just be able to assist families along the way. And we also had a fully accredited program part of it that you could also do as a high school student where we'd give you like an actual transcript and diploma when you
Oh, nice.
graduated. So by the end of my time with that company, I was their admissions counselor and helping with a lot of like the school admin side of things with that. So it was crazy then when I felt like the Lord was saying, well, what about LBC? It brought this admin customer service side of things. It brought this educational thing because that's what I'd been working in, and also this music, and was like, hey, we could basically put all three of these together in the job that I'm doing now. And I was like, it feels. I mean, I used to look at what I was how the Lord had led me then and been like, this doesn't make any sense. Nothing
Um,
could possibly bring all this together. And then this job came up and I said, oh, well, maybe that's why I did all the things that felt random at the time. It was preparing me for the next step in my journey, or in my story.
So tell me about the trust, because this is what we're alluding to.
Mhm.
How did and what is the trust? How did LBC acquire it?
Yeah, so the Trust Performing Arts Center is a performing arts center where we do we house several kind of venues within the venue, right? Where
Mm,
we can do music, concerts, um, forums, so like speaking engagements, theater, and the like. And yeah, it's a really neat story how they acquired it. So back in 2013, um, friends of the college essentially purchased the Trust Performing Arts Center after it went up for sale, after it closed as the Lancaster Quilt and Textile Museum, because that's what it was most recently or before we acquired it. And they said, hey, we want to give this building to LBC, but we want to see what they can do with it. So in the next 2 years, we want to see how you could make it a performing arts center. And if we like what you've done with it after 2 years, then the building is yours.
mm.
I guess they liked what we did with it because here we are, 2 years later, they gifted the Trust Performing Arts Center to Lancaster Bible College. And so that was, since then, we've just been, well, actually, in 2013, I was still a student here, to be honest. So in 2014, when I mentioned my senior recital earlier, I got to be like the second student from Lancaster Bible College who had their senior recital at the Trust
Oh,
Performing Arts Center.
nice.
So it was neat that I get to be now back there, you know, um, presenting current LBC students and more there. But yeah, so ever since then, we started the performing arts series, and Robert Bigley, who is the executive director and has been since the beginning. I mean, he's like, I don't know what I'm doing, right? So we started making connections. He started making connections in Lancaster. He reached out to Laura Kendall, excuse me, who was the basically the executive director at the Ware Center, which is Millerville. Wow,
Millersville.
Millersville's downtown performing arts center, and she kind of mentored him, and yeah, we just with a lot of people in the community, we started bringing in artists and presenting them and doing an arts like a series essentially. We now call it like the Arts and Culture series, but we used to call it Trust Presents or Trust Concerts. Basically it's all the same thing, but we now call it Arts and Culture Presents because it embodies a little bit more now. But yeah, so we've been doing that for almost 10 years now. Now, of course, we had COVID in there, so we're trying to figure, what season are we in or what year are we in? But pretty sure we're going to count it as if the 2024-25 season will be our 10th anniversary season. So
I was gonna say there's a little bit of a hiccup
a
between.
little bit of haziness in there for pretty much all of us. Let's be honest. It affected everything. So
So, when did you come into this job as the operations manager?
yeah, so I came in actually as my title when I first got hired was guest services manager. So like the box office and all that day of. But now it's operations manager. Just during COVID, there was some shuffling. But I started in the fall of 2018. So I'm in my fifth season already, somehow.
So, tell me a little bit about some of the things that have gone on at the trust. You guys do art galleries as well as performances that you've stated. You're more of a classical orientated
hmm
venue. What is it like to get those acts? How do you book those acts? Because they're doing everything everywhere all the time.
Yes, yeah. Good question. So, yeah, so we have I'll start with the gallery. We have a gallery on our first floor called the Square Halo Gallery, and we have a really great curator named Ned Bustard. He's a really talented artist, and he curates the series for us. So, roughly every other month, we bring in a new exhibit. Um, and a lot of it, is art that has something to do with the Christian faith, or some semblance or influence of that excuse me. And it's kind of like a maybe subsidiary might not be the word, but Square Halo Books and Square Halo Gallery, they're kind of linked. So that's really neat. We're open on first Fridays, or by appointment, or people can obviously check out the art when they come to another event. And then we have several partners that we partner with. So Square Halo Gallery is one. And then we also partner with the Row House Forum, which think like TED Talks, but with snacks and a Q&A at the end. So it's a good time. And Tom Becker is the founder of that. And it's Lancaster. A lot of things are tied. He actually used to be one of my high school teachers. So
Oh, wow.
it's just really fun. But he started this probably almost 10 years ago too, out of his row house in Lancaster City. And so it's really basically their motto is, engaging ancient faith with current culture. And so they usually bring in a speaker once a month. So that's a series that runs usually in our gallery, sometimes in our black box. And then we also, so they kind of curate those series, and we just kind of open the building for them and obviously work with them. So I don't really have to find those and book those acts. Yeah, exactly. We're like, you're doing a really good job at this already, so why don't you just do it here, And then we also partner with Reverie Actors Company, who does usually some straight plays in our black box theater. And they, we do of late, we've been doing more like co-productions with them. So that's even a little bit more than, the Row House, for example. It is a little bit more of like they're picking the show, but then we're really helping, put the show up, let's say. But they're awesome. And it's essentially a lot of Sight and Sounders who have been like, we want to do some theater outside of Sight and Sound as well, and that's kind of how it started. But then when it comes to like the concerts and all of that, that's usually what we're finding and booking and things like that. So yeah, I mean, it's, to be honest, the executive director does a lot of that, but we're a team. And so we also help with a lot of that as well. Myself as the operations manager and our assistant. But it's neat. So when you start a performing arts center, as I've learned, you're just asking everybody, like, who do you know? Who should we bring? And you're trying to figure things out, right? Well, after the first season, we realized that the Great Hall, where we have most of our concerts, is quite acoustically live.
Yes.
Probably almost like a 5-second delay. So because of that, there are some acts and genres that just don't translate well. Jazz being one of them. Too many instruments in one room being difficult. So you kind of learn and start catering to, this doesn't sound as great as maybe this does. So then you kind of you learn over years like the rhythm. So we've learned that a cappella works really well at the Trust and sounds great and people love it. String quartets, piano, solo voice or a couple voices, all of that works really well at the Trust. And generally classical music does because it is so acoustic, you don't need a ton of microphones. Now we do sometimes have some acts that, want to use some microphones, but as far as finding them and booking them, at first you start kind of reaching out and then people learn about you. Mm-hmm. And then, agents and stuff, they'll start reaching out to you. And one of the benefits I think we have with being in Lancaster is it's on the way to so many other large cities. So we get to pick up acts sometimes like midweek that are like, hey, we have a gig, we're going from New York to DC. Can we pick up a concert on the way? Mm-hmm. And it's like, oh, well, conveniently, yes. And we're free. Let's do that. So you learn to be, there's a word for it that I'm blanking on right now, but maybe an en route concert. Maybe that's what they call it. But yeah, so we've kind of gotten to know some of the agents that we work with. We've worked with a lot of agencies with their artists, and you kind of get to know the groups you like, and this the month that it works. So as right now we're planning for next season, and we think, okay, generally we like to have a cappella, in November or December. So who are the like a cappella groups out there right now, and who do we want to have? And then we reach out to their management and say, hey, do you have anybody? Or, hey, we're interested in having your group. I won't give away who we're talking to right now because it's a little bit of a secret right now. But like, hey, do you have, is your group on tour in November, December, or can we talk, basically?
Right. Is there an opportunity here?
Exactly. And so, you kind of go back and forth. You identify a date, and then, of course, you have to talk about the money, right? It's always that. And then, the contract, and you kind of tend to negotiate that a bit, especially the writer, because sometimes it's like, hey, we're not gonna get you the specific grape flavor of seltzer water, but we'll get you seltzer water. You kind of negotiate all those things. That was a really silly, small detail, and then you book them. and you go, everybody has to sign things, then we go from there. So yeah, we're kind of in that phase right now of nailing down what next season's going to be looking like. So
And so, how do you? What have past seasons looked like? How do you like? You mentioned that you want certain things for November and December, and then some things in the spring. What has been that kind of like overarching season look
yeah,
like?
yeah. Well, we are a small team, so whereas some people are having events like every day or whatever, as much as we'd like to do that, we just don't have the manpower to do that at the moment. So we've kind of learned what we can kind of manage, and that's roughly like one concert a month. And there's a row house a month, theater. It depends. It's a few times a year. So generally, what we like to do is we like to do a season launch in the early September to give people a sneak peek of what's coming up for the season. And then usually we do our first concert early October. And that could be anything like last year in October, we had Eric Owens and Curtis on tour. And he's a big, opera star, done things on the Met, all this beautiful concert. They did a wonderful job. And then, so October, we like to do sometimes that. The year before that, it was the year before that was supposed to be Beijing Guitar Duo, and we pushed that off because of COVID, but it depends. And then in November, we like to do a cappella if we can, or we do another concert. It just depends. This past November, we had King's Return, which was an a cappella group. And then we also do usually like a several week run of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe in partnership with Reverie Actors Company in our Black Box. So as you can see, there's a couple different things going on. Our team also helps with the LBC musicals that are on campus as well. So that's the other thing you're juggling, right? Like, we have to be sometimes two places at once. And so we're always trying to manage the schedule where hopefully it's not overlapping too much because of the size of our team. It does happen sometimes, but yeah. And then in Christmas or in December, we're also running the Lancaster Bible College Christmas concert as well. We're helping with the box office for that and the house management for that. And in January, we used to take a break. This year, though, we did a dance festival that was quite popular and a hit.
Ooh.
So hopefully we'll. I haven't even mentioned dance that much. By the way, everybody, we do dance things as well at the Trust. Shame on me. But yeah, so we did a dance festival, which was really special. And that was a lot of fun. So, we'll probably hopefully try to have like a several week thing because we actually lay a dance floor out. It's not there all the time, and it's actually quite time intensive, but we lay a Marley floor on we move the chairs, lay the Marley floor out, and then while it's out, we're like, let's all dance a lot on this. Yeah, and then February sometimes we try to do like a Valentine's Day concert, and then March we have a family that has given an endowment essentially to the college to bring in an artist onto the campus here. So once a year we try to do a big concert, the Arts and Culture Series. Like our team tries to do a big concert here on campus, though. Somebody who we think we could sell more tickets to than 250.
Was that just the recent guy from The Voice?
Yes. Yeah. So recently we had Jordan Smith from The Voice, and another thing with that arrangement, like the endowment, is the idea is they'll do a master class or a Q&A or something with our students as well. Yes. Like that's part of it. So
that's something I distinctly remember from all of my time at Lancaster Bible College was that anytime they were performing at the Trust on a Thursday, it would probably be in class on Friday.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's part of it. It's like, why have an arts and culture series if we can't involve our students? So that's definitely a huge part of what we try to do, which is somehow connect them with our students via a master class. We try to give the students very discounted or free tickets to come see them, especially our music students, of course, so that they can be inspired and be like, hey, I'm striving for this.
And we'll get around to that, but I want to finish the season outlook.
Sure. Yes. So March, we try to do a big concert on campus as well. And then April, we usually do, one more, and sometimes in May. And I haven't mentioned yet, like we did start a few years ago, another partnership with Lancaster International Piano Festival. So we've kind of been building that over the years as well. And so I didn't necessarily mention all their concerts, but it's kind of started becoming almost 2 concerts a month because with their help, we're able to do a little bit more. And they're the ones actually kind of programming that. And we speak into it, but it's mostly them that take it and run with it. And sometimes it's a solo pianist. Sometimes it's a solo with like other chamber instruments. So in the last 2 years, they've kind of closed out our season with a concert in May.
Nice.
So
And so now let's get into how the trust benefits the students as much as
sure.
the students can benefit the trust.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, I'll just start a little bit further back. Like when I was a student and we got that, I said, no way, this is awesome. Because as somebody who's training classically, acoustically, we didn't have anywhere on campus like what we have at the trust. So it was
Not even
just
the bathrooms here.
Oh no. Yeah, exactly. So getting the trust, oh my word, it was so thrilling because I was like, I get to do my senior recital there. That's amazing, you know? So it's such a special place, and I love that we have it for those for our music students who are training, especially more classically, to be able to do their senior recitals there or have concerts there and perform there is so special. And I know that it means a lot to them. We also have occasionally, hopefully, we'll be building on this, like our students in our Black Box Theater, our musical theater students, to do straight plays. So I know we did a straight play in fall of 2021 called Radium Girls.
Radium Girls, yeah.
There, so definitely we open up the building, a lot to our students to be able to use with recitals and other things. So hey, I mean, I would say that's a huge benefit right there for the students.
Absolutely.
And then also our series is wanting to be able to give them the opportunity to interact with artists as much as possible. So not only by encouraging them to come to the concerts, and oftentimes, not every time, but many times, there's like a little meet and greet with the artists afterward, and they get to kind of pick their brains and talk with them a little bit there. But then, as often as we can, having them to campus for a master class or, a Q&A or something of the like, so that they can just say, hey, I'm studying here. And it's easy sometimes when you're studying to look around and be like, oh, well, I'm doing okay. I'm doing as well as the next guy that I'm studying with, but you bring somebody in who's professionally doing this, and it can open up your mind and your, perspective to be like, oh, I still have a lot to do though. I can still work hard and get.
And not only that, but and I'll go a little bit on a tangent on Sandeep Das and Mike
Oh
Block.
yeah, let's do it. I love them.
Because they came to the campus, or they came to the trust one time, and it's a cellist and a tabla player.
Tabla player, yeah.
Incredibly different instruments. That often,
who would have ever paired it together?
Yeah,
right?
that often don't play together. So not only does it give the students an idea of, okay, if you're a trumpet player, you can also play with some other completely random other instrument that you would have never ever thought of.
Right.
Who would have ever thought of a cello and a tabla? Most of these people that probably listen to this don't know what a tabla is. Yeah. Look it up. It's great.
Think of like the little hand drums that you sit on the floor with and do.
Yeah. But not like a bongo, not like a djembe, not like the automatic things that come into your head. They're they're completely different pitch drums that are incredibly really cool to play and to see being played. And I remember this distinctly because they were a really funny group.
Yeah.
And they made some jokes, and I have a distinct laughter for those who don't know. And the next day, they came up and did some of the same jokes, and they stopped midway during their concert here at during their masterclass and said, "Who was that? You were there last night."
Yeah.
And they gave me a lot of encouragement and said how much that my laughter encouraged them.
Yeah. They were wonderful, and that is one of the cool things, about the acts. Sometimes we stumble across one, and it's like we have to have them here, And I think that their masterclass with our students the next day was one of the more influential and impactful, or well, at least say memorable ones that I sat in on as well. We had the Donald Cinta Quartet before as well, and I remember having a similar experience with it's for saxophonists. Oh. And I remember thinking, I had no idea that the saxophone could sound like this. Like, because sometimes, just the pairings of things or whatever, it's just, it's shocking a little bit in a good way.
Yeah, it's stuff you don't think about.
Right.
Especially as a classically trained musician that is used to this certain arrangement, this certain of lineup. And then to see that, we're no longer in classical times,
right?
And we can see what things can be done, or
with a little creativity and
a little bit of thinking.
Yeah, a lot of thinking. Exactly. Yeah. So I love that we get to. honestly, it's one of my favorite things about my job, that we get to provide opportunities for our students. And heck, I like the opportunities too, to get to learn from
Meet
them
these
and grow
people,
from them
yeah.
and meet them, but to provide opportunities for the students to be inspired and encouraged.
And we get great acts like Vultures 8 came in one time for the
Yes.
LBC choir, what is it
Yeah.
called? Chorale.
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah.
it's called.
The chorale and the chamber singers. And it's just, I mean, every time I watch them work with students, I'm learning things,
Yeah.
It
And
doesn't matter how old you are, you're like, oh, wow.
yeah, and even as a person who doesn't do singing as a thing,
Mhm.
I went and learned a lot of stuff that I would have
Yeah.
never known of otherwise.
Yeah. It's so special. And yeah, I think we've probably had Voce as our a cappella group almost the most of any. They're just fantastic, almost the most of anybody.
Well, if they come back, let me
Oh,
know.
I'll keep you on the download, Corey, or I'll keep you on the whatever. Not down
Whatever.
low, but I'll keep you informed. Yeah.
So, what are some of the we are a Christian institution here.
Mhm.
How do you keep that in line with the trust?
That's a great question. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's so much we could say. One of the things that our team specifically, and one of my visions when I'm leading, my team, because I have some student workers that work for me as well and help me run the events, which
Mhm.
is another cool part of my job, getting to know some students better. But one of my goals is, and one of the things that is important to me and my team, is I want us to be the most hospitable people that they ever encounter in the industry.
A lot of these people are not Christians themselves.
Many of them are not. Yeah. And so just, we're always praying, Lord, if you give us an opportunity to say something, may we be faithful in that, and may we be able to encourage them. But another thing that, I'm just really involved in is the hospitality end of things. And so not only can we be a light to them, can we be an encouragement to them, but like, my goal is for us to be the most welcoming, kind, hospitable people that they experience in the industry, and venue that they experience in the industry. And I know that there's times that they've said things that have encouraged me, that like we're doing that or as well as we can. But yeah, I mean, not that you can ever grow in that, but I want them to leave the trust, and whether we had the opportunity to legitimately talk about the Lord or not, which sometimes does come up, and we have had some cool opportunities. I want them to leave and say, at the very least, leave and say there was something different about that place. There was something different about those people.
And I want to come back.
Yes, and I want to come back. And the way that they cared for us while we were there, the way that they provided for us, the way that they, loved us. There was just something different about that, so that it at least gets them thinking, and wondering and curious about what was it that was different about them, and hopefully gets them thinking about that. But yeah, I love the opportunity to just, from forgetting the scriptural reference, because, well, frankly, I often forget scriptural reference, but the one that says, outdo one another in showing honor. And that is always my goal. And that's I always put that on my team. Like, this is our goal, right? Like, I want them leaving feeling very well cared for.
And so, what I know you can't speak much into the next season, but what are we looking at in the future?
Oh yeah. So, well, you can be prepared for some a cappella again, which is exciting. Hopefully we'll have The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe again, which is such a crowd favorite, especially among families and young kids. And you'll see some piano again. You'll see some chamber groups again. And we're also working with another relationship that hopefully will blossom a lot next year, that has to do with my first love, which is singing and voice, and classical voice particularly, and art songs and opera. So working on something special with that as well.
And you have some upcoming performances as a part of this season too.
We do, yeah. We have a few left. We have, aside from the senior recitals we'll help to host this month, we're also hosting the Dali Quartet out of Philadelphia. And I'm excited about every concert usually, but I am very excited about this one as well, because basically they've done a good job at trying to bridge Western classical music with Latin American music as well. So they're gonna do like kind of some of that. So they're gonna do some Villalobos, they're gonna do some Ramirez. So think like tango string quartet music, right?
It's gonna be a lot of fun.
It's going to be a lot of fun. They're also going to do some Tchaikovsky as well, because, why not?
Yeah,
we love him. So I'm really excited for that concert. That'll be April 22nd, at 3 p.m. But just excited to have them. And they're just lovely human beings. So I'm excited to just host them as well. And then Lancaster International Piano Festival will wrap up our concert portion of our series, at least on May 5th, with a chamber group called the Gabriel Chamber Ensemble. So that'll be basically a string quartet with Shun Pan, the founder of Lancaster International Piano Festival, on the keys.
Yeah.
Or on the piano.
And so we're gonna go into a time of questions that I like to ask all my guests. So if anybody watching has a question for you, you can make sure to leave that in the comments. So the first question I have, because there's got to be some stories. And every dancer, every musician has all these stories. What is one of the funniest or worst things that ever happened to you on stage?
Ooh. Okay, so now this is going back. Can I go back to middle school? Is that too far?
Middle school is probably the one time where
it's middle school.
Happens.
There's always some stories there, right? I was in this show at it wasn't through Effort of Performing Arts Center, also known as EPAC. If you're like local, you might know that. But it was through like a different traveling drama company. I honestly forget the name now, but we were renting out the space, so we were at EPAC performing in their space. And I remember I was supposed to be on stage because I had a few lines in the scene, and I was supposed to, cross over and basically enter through the house and come down on the stage from like house right, stage left. And I literally, there wasn't much like light backstage. I literally got trapped backstage just in tons of props. I was like panicking. I was like, I couldn't find my way to the exit, actually. So funniest thing on stage, really, I missed it. Actually, I said, "Oh my word, my line is coming any minute." Like I'm supposed to be out there to say my lines, and they're coming any minute. And I was trapped backstage in a dark backstage. I just remember the feeling of panic, like, "Oh my word, I'm not going to make it out. I can't find my way." And by the next show, they had more lighting backstage, so it wasn't an issue anymore. But now it's funny. The girl who said her line, after me realized all this, and oh my word, she's not on stage, and she covered okay for me, so it all worked out. But I just remember that being like, oh my word,
this is the worst moment of my entire life.
I'm actually trapped. Like I actually couldn't get out. I don't even know where the exit is, But that's one that comes to mind. The other one is, I went through a small stage in college where I was way too confident in my ability to make up lyrics on the fly.
Oh, really?
And so I think what it did is, I like to think I got over this, but I think what happens is when you're too confident in your ability to do that, you don't always maybe prepare as well as you should. Because like, oh, I can make it up if I forget this lyric. So there was definitely a song or two. I won't say when, not that anyone can take my degree from me now, but where I definitely forgot the lyrics on stage and had to make them up, in the spot, which, if you're in a different language, not so hard unless someone, or not so maybe obvious always, except for the singers in the room who know the song, or the Italian or French speakers, right? But there was also those moments, and I was glad when I was like, you need to get past this phase in your life. You need to make sure you're so prepared so you don't forget the lyrics. But yeah,
we talked about a little bit about this beforehand, but you're starting to get into French.
Yes.
Why?
Yeah, that's a great question. So Italian, I will say, is my first love as far as language. I studied some Spanish in high school, but Italian is just the language I want to know. But I actually work as well, as if I need more to do, right? But part-time for a French bakery here in Lancaster City called Bistro Barbaret and Bakery. And I've been there for over 6 years, just on a part-time basis. I picked it up because I was like, I want to get out of debt a little quicker, college debt or whatever. So picked it up. And I thought I would be there maybe 6 months. Had I known I would be there 6 years and counting, I absolutely would have started French right away. Because I think I could have been fluent because I would have had opportunities to practice it, and speak it with
a lot of French
my coworkers. Well, you wouldn't know. I learned how many French people actually are living in this area by working there because, as you might imagine, they go to it because they can.
French.
It's French. It reminds them of home, for example, and gives them a place where they've met other French people and can, speak French.
Spot.
Exactly, the community. So anyway, I was feeling really kind of down about this last year. I said, darn it. I really wish I had started French then, and maybe I could have been fluent. And I feel like I missed an opportunity in life. And then I said, you know what? Rather than be sad about that, I'm just going to start it now. So I've started learning French a little bit on the side. I'm like 3 months in, I really can't say much. Je suis Ariella,
Right.
but it's been a lot of fun.
And so, what a great outlook to have on that, because I know so many people that were like, "Oh, if I had just done it then,
Hmm.
blah 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 blah." There's no point in starting now.
Yeah.
There's always a point in starting now. There's
Yes.
always a point in
Thank
starting
you.
whenever.
Yeah, that's encouraging to me because I almost let that mentality make me not start. But I said,
Right.
you know what? I might have missed 6 years, but like, just start now.
I'm not gonna miss another day,
Exactly.
so start it now.
Yeah. So I've been getting to talk just a little bit here and there with my boss, who is French. She's from Lyon, France, and so I've started to be able to talk a little bit more with her, and it's encouraging. So.
So you've been able to have a chance to work with students a lot of for the past few years. What are some of the biggest pieces of advice that you could give to these students now?
Oh, that I love. These are good questions, Corey. I see why you're so good at this. Um, I mean, there's so much. A few things that come to mind at the moment. I would say enjoy this time in your life.
Mm.
Rarely ever again, potentially, are you going to have the same time available to you to just study and pour yourself into your work
And to experiment
and to experiment. I think
without
that's
much consequence.
yes, that's one of the beauties of the college years. And then I would say also a lot of your 20s. You kind of can still take that into it, but enjoy this time because life is busy now, but believe it or not, it actually does continue to get busier as well, especially if people, choose families or depending on the career they end up getting into. So enjoy this time that you have and really pour yourself into it. Like work as hard as you can to become the best thing you can at your craft because you have time to do it now in a way that you're not going to have again.
I was gonna say the time to invest in yourself is now,
Exactly.
because you're gonna see all of that pay off into your 30s and 40s.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And start building connections too, is what
Oh,
I would say too.
absolutely. That's why I
Because
started this podcast.
yeah, connections are really what get you jobs. I mean,
It
I think we
does.
all joke about this. It's a saying for a reason, but it's not what you know, it's who you know. But
Mhm.
there's a lot of truth to that. And I think so I would say that like pour yourself into it as hard as you can, And then the other thing I would say is do not compare yourself and your journey with somebody else's.
Right.
Compare yourself to where you were in the past. And I see the danger it can create and the problems it can create. And then also I see the joy it can bring if someone is choosing not to do that. Um,
Yeah, because I that was somewhat of a problem here, for me at least,
mhm.
because I came into this class of quite frankly star-studded people.
Sure.
I came with Zach Fernback, Matt. Oh, who's that? Who's the guy? Matt. Last name married to Brianna.
Oh, Wilhelm.
Wilhelm,
Mhm.
Matt Wilhelm,
Mhm.
absolutely fantastic singers,
Yeah.
absolutely fantastic dancers, and I felt like I was a nobody here. And
Mm.
I was roommates with Matt Cross, one of the best drummers I feel like
He's fantastic.
any
Yeah.
of this college has seen in a while,
Yeah.
at least. And now I see myself back then. I was comparing myself to other people. I was like,
Mhm.
wow, who am I to be here?
Mm.
But then here I am, not you know, a few years later. I'm an award-winning podcast host. I'm an award-winning composer now, and so much more has been opened up to me. And if I had compared myself as deeply as some people do,
Mhm.
I would have quit.
Absolutely. And you wouldn't be doing what the Lord has put in,
Right.
has designed you and created you to do. And like sometimes it takes time to figure out your exact niche and you haven't, as we literally talked about, you haven't
Hmm.
found that by college yet. You're still exploring and experimenting. But but the thing that of course, my mom used to always say this one statement that I never forgot, which is comparison breeds contempt.
Hmm.
And I think it's so true. I think it's and you know what it does too? It makes you depressed sometimes or it makes you sad and you don't want to work hard then when really if you would just stop comparing yourself and go into the
And do your own
yeah,
thing.
go into the studio space and practice, then keep yourself so busy practicing and growing the talents that and skill that the Lord has given you. Um keep yourself so busy doing that you don't even have time to compare. That's
Yeah,
what
and you'll find yourself that you'll outshine those people in certain ways that you were
yeah.
meant to be.
Yeah, because we're each created for something different and
Yes.
and so we need to grow the skills and talents that the Lord has given us because he's given it to us for a reason and not to somebody else. And however much he's given us, he wants us to be faithful with and to steward well. And so that's definitely something I'm always trying to encourage students with is listen, you couldn't be them even if you tried. You know why? Because you're not.
And this is an advice that Dr. Bigley gave me when he was on the show. Don't be something you're not. Be what you are.
Yes, exactly.
And that
and be the best what you are as you possibly
absolutely.
can. You know? Yeah, so that's, and you know, it's not just a lesson too that we don't need when we get out of college sometimes too.
It's a lesson we need all the time.
It's a lesson we need all the time. You know, where has the Lord put you, and are you being faithful there and growing and learning and being the best you can in that? And everybody's journey is different, you know? So
I have a few more questions for you, and I like to ask all my brothers and sisters in faith, what is worship to you?
Just here with the questions, man. Good one, Corey. You know, I do think worship doesn't start and end in a worship service, let's call it, or it is our whole life, you know. I think that how we live our life, how we honor the Lord in what we're doing, how we work the best that we can in doing what He's given us to do. I think all of that is a part of worship, and is, you know, worshiping our Creator by honoring and stewarding the gifts He gave us. I think that is a way of worship. I think loving others well is a form of worship as well. I don't know if somebody else has this like really strict, you know, definition of worship, and if they're going to be like, who is she? She shouldn't even be working at LBC.
Where's Ryan Shank?
Exactly. But I do think that yes, you can, you know, get together and you can sing songs, and you know, a worship service, that's called, of course, that's worship. But I also don't think it ends there. I think how we live our lives is also a form of worship to our Creator.
So then let me rephrase the question.
Okay.
Where do you find yourself most in tune of God?
Oh.
That's what I was trying to get at.
Yeah. To be honest, I do think when I am doing something to the best of my ability, and I know that I'm giving my all toward it, and I also know it's what He's called me to do, I feel like I'm worshiping a lot, and the most, almost. Like when it's also, there's, I think, gratitude in that as well, right? Like, thank you, Lord, for giving me these gifts and helping me to see that this is where you want me, helping me to believe that this is where you want me, and giving me the, you know, the energy and the courage to do it. So I think there for sure. And then I also, you know, I love worshiping through song. Probably not a surprise. And I do think being in nature also, and recognizing, for me, all the things, flowers is a good way for me to realizing, like, He literally could have made this world so drab, but He didn't, because He loves us, you know? And so nature helps remind me, especially at springtime, right? Like, He could have made trees that did not blossom, but he was like, you know what? This is going to bring them joy, and I can do this. I'm going to make trees blossom, many trees. And it's just like such a gift when you recognize that so much of life is a gift and could have been different, but isn't, because He loves us. I think it helps encourage gratitude. And I think that's how I love to worship too, is just choosing to be grateful and seeing the good in so much of what He's done. Yes, it's a broken world still, but there's still a lot of His fingerprints on it, you know?
So last question, where can people find you in the Trust?
Yes, you can find us at the Trust. I hope you do come out to a concert or a show or a dance thing or a forum. But yeah, you can find the Trust at 37 North Market Street in Lancaster. We're right beside Dipka, if you know the dispensing company, and we're right near Central Market. So that's where you can find me at events. I'll be there. And then you can find me at LBC as well as musicals and things. You can find me online at Ariella Hoover is my Facebook name. Send me a friend request if you want, or pick my brain about something if there's something I said you want me to go deeper into. On Instagram, I'm L Hoover, ELL Hoover. But yeah, you can find me running events here. You can find me at the French Bakery if you want. I know this is really like a music thing, but hey, they have really good desserts if you want.
The French are known for their pastries.
Yes, they are. And let's just say there's a reason I'm also still there after 6 years. It's delicious. But yeah, I'd love to, you know, chat more if you want to chat more. I love people. So.
And if you're a student here at LBC and you want to go see these performances, just know they are half off for all students here. Mm-hmm. And for MWPA students, I believe it's half off. And you're trying to get these next two shows free.
Yes, yeah. For MWPA students, for the next two will be free, and then for LBC students, the next two shows are basically 75% off the adult ticket price. So there's we're trying to make it as accessible as possible. So
Does that extend to alumni at all?
we'll talk then. We'll talk. But yeah, I mean, you can also find me at the box office if you're an LBC student. Come say hi. I'm right there off the. We all know you have to go to chapel, and my office, my main office is the box office right in the chapel lobby. So come say hey. Come ask about the discounts if you want, or shoot me an email. Boxoffice@lbc.edu. So.
Well, with all that said, my name is Corey Rosen. This has been the Story Podcast. You can find more about me at CoreyRosenProductions.com. That's CORYROSEN Productions.com, where you can find out about my personal projects as well as the Story Podcast and all past 140 something episodes that I've had and will continue to have. Tomorrow, I have on Dustin LeBlanc from West Shore Theater. He is the executive producer over there, and he's done a lot of other cool things in the theater world and managing. So we're going to be continuing in the admin side over there.
Nice.
And then this Saturday, we're going to be having Colt Wilbur of the Saturday or Sunday. So I think it's a Sunday that we're having Colt Wilbur. He's a country artist from the area, and I'm really excited to have him on to talk about all things country. So with all that said, I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day, and we will see you guys later. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.